Book Connectors. I'm back with another video. Welcome back to the Book Connection. I am your host, Black Devil, and I am here for a video of the book Family Tree by Barbara Delinsky. Okay, book lovers. Now, this video may offend or unnerve some people simply because of the subject matter. And that is the last thing I want to do is upset someone. But I do feel like because we are all adults and I think that we all should be able to have an intelligent conversation without, putting anybody or without ruffling anyone's feathers, or that is my hope anyway. So, meet Barbara and Hugh Clark. They are a white married couple who is expecting their very first child. Dana was raised by her grandmother. Her mother she passed away when Dana was 5. And then her mother, Ellie Jo, Lord, these days, Ellie Jo ended up, raising Dana. Dana never knew her father. So that's just what it was. She didn't question anything. Well, then Hugh has he's a lawyer. And his family, I don't know that I would say they were like uber rich, but they lived comfortably. Dana's grandmother was part owner of a yarn shop. And so people would come in and they would it's kind of like I don't know, maybe like if somebody might do a book club and you just sit around and knit and crochet and do all of that while you're engaged in conversation. So that's what that was. And the name of the shop was the Stitchery. I thought that was cute. But anyway, yes, so that's what Dana did. Okay. Dana has the baby. Everybody's excited. Now, Hugh has one sibling named Robert. Robert has a couple of children and a wife, but Hugh did not have it. He hadn't been long. I don't know how long they were married before she got pregnant. Okay, so everybody is excited, awaiting the new arrival. The day comes. Everybody's there at the hospital. Everything goes well until the baby is seen. This baby is black. Remember, I just said that the couple is white. So her husband, Hugh's family, just went on this whole thing. Now, they didn't never really bless Dana out, but they would make little snide remarks, and then Hugh's brother Robert would call him from time to time and say little stuff to him. But and you know what? I did not get the impression that Hugh ever thought she cheated on him. Hugh's best friend is black. His name is David. And David had once been married to a white lady, Susan, and together they had one child, Allie. They ended up getting a divorce because he admitted to stepping out on Susan one time. And that one time was all it took, baby. So she left. And he secretly did have like a crush on Dana, but he never acted on it. Hugh, on the other hand, he picked up from David, like, I don't know, you sure you wouldn't want to try to holler at my wife, blah, 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 but he never He never did. David never did go there. That was just there. And one of the reasons he didn't approach her that way is because he never picked up any vibes that she would be interested in dating, him. Okay, so all of these accusations are just coming around, and it led to some very frank conversations between Dana and Hugh. Everybody just kept accusing her. Now, like I said, I don't think Hugh thought she cheated, but he did feel like there was some black ancestry in her family somewhere. Because when they went to the doctor to try to explain where this is coming from, Hugh spoke up and said right quick, like, look, I come from an Anglo-Saxon, lily white family. So it's got to be her. And since she didn't know who her father was, then, that has to be where it came from. And he did try to speak up on Dana's behalf, but it still led to heated arguments between the two of them. And his mother, what was that lady's name? I think it was Dorothy. She just came from a generation where, you just married and dated your own kind. And basically so did Hugh's father, Eden. But Eden was a big-time researcher, science researcher, and he was also a lawyer. And he was a champion of civil rights. And a lot of times, he would be right if there were any type of protesting going on, or if it was just outright, blatantly obvious that black people were being treated unfair. He was right there with all the black people and stuff. So that's what that was. So then when this baby comes along, they named her Elizabeth after Dana's deceased mother. So, and they called her Lizzie. So when Lizzie came along, everything was perfect. No physical health issues, no nothing. Just golden brown, pretty little girl. Everybody, well, for the longest, everybody, when it got out that the baby was black, everybody was just stopping by to see. Part of it, I do believe, is because she probably, she was a baby. It's hard to find a baby that's ugly. And if you really know somebody, you are excited when you know they're having a baby. But some of them came just to see if it was true, just idle gossipers. So this is what went on throughout the entire book. I mean, it got to the point to where Hugh and Dana had stopped sleeping together. They stopped doing anything together. They did everything but physically separate. They both stayed under the same roof. And I think that was very good, because to me, if you're under the same roof, no matter how hard things are, how trying the times may be, being under the same roof still, to me, tells me that there is always a possibility that, you'll get past it and it'll just be water under the bridge. But I guess sometimes that bridge is broken. But they stayed together. And a lot of people, family, friends, they tried not to let on that they were having, difficulty. Now, Hugh's family didn't, especially his father, his brother. Oh, my gosh. If there was anything they thought about saying, they said it. Eden's brother, which is Hugh's uncle, Eden and his brother Bradley, didn't get along very well. But and so when the baby was born black, who could beat Brandon? Going around, I said Bradley, but it's Brandon. Who could beat Brandon going around telling everybody he knew and even some he didn't know? You know, I have a great niece, and she's black. And, you know, I don't know. It didn't say that the man was out there saying that the lady, that Dana was doing anything inappropriate. But you don't have to. When you go out of your way to tell somebody, yeah, I'm coming from a really white family, but guess what? I have a black baby in the family, and we don't know how that happened. It had to be from one of the parents. So it was just something all the time. Matter of fact, Hugh took on this lady's, her little boy was 4 years old, and he had a lot of health issues as a direct result of being in a car wreck. And Hugh, I don't know how her story came across his desk, but it did. And when he saw the lady somewhere, because he told her he had heard her story and he would like to represent her. And she was all, no, you just trying to make a name for yourself and you won't do it on me. She was very apprehensive and stuff. But eventually he was like, I couldn't afford you no way is what she said, basically. He was like, well, you don't have to pay me. He said, if we win, because she was trying to take her baby's father to child support court. And so he said, but even if we do get child support set up for you and your son, or for your son, you don't owe me a penny. And so she went and did a little research on her own and came back. Because she was just a struggling young woman. I think she was in her mid-20s. And, she started dating the darn senator. And this senator had children all throughout their little community there. But none of the women were able to make him pay child support. And, you know, I guess a lot of it is because he had money enough to challenge anything. You know, you pay people enough sometimes, and, you know, things will go more in your favor. But when Hugh approached her, and after the lady came back and said, okay, I guess I'll take you out, because she was working at a diner somewhere. I think her yearly income wasn't like $20,000. And even at that, it was hard for them to get by sometimes. So when she accepted him and things, he found out, it wasn't until she agreed to let him represent her, that he found out that her baby's father was the senator. Now, he and the senator, they didn't really have the best relationship. But, you know, they could be cordial when they ended up in the same courtrooms sometimes. But it's like when he found out that Brandon could possibly be the little boy's father, he dug in with both heels. And I think part of why he did it also was to just give him something else to do besides dealing with his own personal family's struggles. So this went on and Hugh's father, he just they butted heads. They loved each other. I think they respected each other more so. Well, I hate to say nothing about love their parent or children, but it's like maybe they just didn't like each other. They loved each other, respected each other. They just didn't like each other. So, it just, nothing you could do would be enough to appease his parents. Now, he felt like his mother was just following along with whatever his dad said because they were older and stuff. So that's just how that went. So we go on. This just goes back and forth. Now, at the same time, Dana's grandmother, Ellie Jo, she has letters and documents from her husband who had died. And from time to time, Dana would glance. She might receive papers, but it's like when Ellie Jo saw her looking, she would just hide the letters. So she eventually put them under lock and key. And they would just go on with life as usual. They meet up at the yard, at the stitchery. I don't know if I said Ellie Jo was part owner of it as well, but she is. And life was just fine and dandy as peppermint candy. So eventually, though, Dana runs into her mother's friend, best friend. Dana's mom got pregnant in college, and her best friend said that nobody ever met this man. All they knew was that he came from a big family, a big Catholic family, and he was known as a playboy around town, but ultimately, if he had gotten anyone pregnant, his family and, the church, he would have had to marry that person. So he never knew that Elizabeth was pregnant. And then her mom, Dana's mom, Elizabeth, when she got pregnant, she just left college. She left college. Now, Dana was 5 when her mother passed, so I don't know what else she did up until, she lost her mom. I don't know what her mom did to support them, but she did. And the best friend was like, because Dana was like, well, do you know his name? So she gave Dana the name she knew. And so every time Dana would try to ask Ellie Jo anything about that in particular, she kind of just shut it down. And part of the reason she shut it down is because she really didn't know herself. She didn't know much about them. And the best friend did tell Dana that Elizabeth went to some family outing. Jack was Dana's father. She went to some family function of theirs, and she just said she just didn't get it. Everything just seemed to be bad vibes. Like nobody mistreated her or said anything out the way. They just made little innuendos toward Jack, and she would hear and stuff. So she never went back around them, but she still kept seeing him. But when she got pregnant, she just left. She just left, no explanation about anything. So when she found out what her dad's name was, because at this time, Hugh's family is just out now demanding that she find out who her father is. He's got to be black. This went on and on, and I'm thinking to myself, well, It's, to me, it's like they just never did realize that she probably had been looking for her father. Because she wanted to know just as much as anybody else. And she knew whatever was going on was on her side because, they prided themselves on, not having any black people in her husband's family. Now, that's who I'm referring to when I say they. So she accepted that, okay, I don't know my father. So it is possible that, he's black. All this went on. But eventually, she told Hugh, after one particular argument, that she had gotten a number for her father, but she hadn't called it yet. And that ticked him off a little bit because he knew that that was probably going to be the only way they could go ahead and make sure clear his family up, stop his family from saying that she slept with a black man at some time. So they argued about that for a while, but eventually she did call him. And she told him she called him. And he turned out later on, he was a married priest. And his wife had passed away, but together they had 5 children. They had 1 daughter and 4 sons, but they were all grown and were living their own lives, and he was the priest at his church and stuff. Okay, so they go and they meet him, and he was just blown away. He had no idea. Because, see, when Dana was talking to him, she was asking him different questions, and eventually she was like, so you're saying that you had no idea that I existed? He said, I honestly didn't know. He said, all I knew is that I loved your mother. And she just disappeared. She just left. And when he would run into her friends and stuff, they just said she left without any explanation because they never told him that she was pregnant, even though they knew she was. Maybe Elizabeth asked them not to, but they didn't. So he really didn't know that she was pregnant, but he was white. So they left his house, still puzzled, trying to figure out, well, now he is white. So eventually, one of them got the idea. They took Lizzie to the doctor for, I guess, like a well baby checkup. And a doctor came in and was talking to them, saying, I see that you are confused as to why your baby is black and you all are white. And they told her a little bit about, meeting her biological father. He's white, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, what? I guess we just need to go ahead and get a DNA test, huh? One of them said either Dana or Hugh, but they were being flip about it. But the doctor said, in all honesty, that's all we have left to try. We tried everything else. You've located your father. He didn't know, and he didn't know about you. And even if he did, he's still white. So we're back to square one. So she was saying, the doctor went on to say, well, we can do a DNA, and we can see what's going on. And Dana was like, I'm ready. Can we do it today? Can we do it today? And she told her, yeah. So the lady went and took the DNA test. But then she just begged them to please put a rush on it. Because the doctor had said they could find out, later on that day what the results were, but when she got there, the one administering the test thought it would be a couple of days. So she just begged that man to please, 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 please try to put a brush on it and stuff. So he did. Came back. She's white. Her DNA showed no signs of having any black ancestry. And so he was like, because whenever they got over the shock of that, they are still arguing. But like I said, they're still in the same house. He'd help anything he could for the baby. Even when he and Dana weren't speaking, he was always there for Lizzie. So he eventually decides to have the DNA test. Bum, bum, bum. There's that, what was that, 1/8%? As it turns out, he was the one with black people in his family. So now everything comes out. Finds out that Hugh's mother, Dorothy, had an affair and got pregnant. Now all of this happened while she was married to Hugh's father, Eden. But nobody, no, I'm getting it twisted now. Okay, so Eden's mother had an affair while she was married to Eden's father. But it was never found out. Nobody ever suspected or anything. Eden came out just as white as his parent, well, the man who raised him, and his mother. Nobody had reason to pay any attention. And I guess his mother probably spent the rest of her life hoping no one, found out. She just kept that her little secret. So when it came back showing that Hugh's father was black, Hugh's father was biracial. I guess it is what it is. Eden was biracial because his mother was white, but his father was black. And boy, that flipped Hugh's brother Robert all the way out. And so Eden, like I said, he was some sort of a science researcher, but he was also a lawyer. He was getting ready to release a book, and he just didn't want this to be found out. And Hugh was like, oh, so you're just a hypocrite, because who can beat you championing civil rights causes for all people of color, even white underprivileged people? You wouldn't find a better champion in you. But when it comes to you and your lineage, your whatever, you just pass for white all your life. And he was like, I didn't pass for white. I didn't know I was black. but I mean, I can see that because I have some biracial cousins, black and white, and one of them looks white, and one of them looks like a real pretty light-skinned black girl. But they live in a little town that's not even a city, where everybody knows their dad is black, and nobody pays that any attention anymore. I'm pretty sure. They might have gotten a little word here and there. But like I said, one of my cousins, if she wanted to pass for white, she could. And if the other one wanted to pass as black, she could. But they both have the same name. So, so I know that it happens. Nobody ever, though, not in Hugh's family, when they finally got the truth, nobody wanted to, or did, well, no. Hugh's mother apologized. And then Hugh and his father even had one more knockdown, drag out argument. But after that happened, everything turned out. They started getting along. Hugh won his case for the lady with the little boy, because that little boy had extensive surgeries he was going to have for the rest of his life from that accident. And that man tried, the senator tried, his name was Stan, that's it. Stanley Hutchinson, I think, and they called him Stan. Stan, I guess he had just got a little too comfortable with running around here having all these children. And what really stunned kind of reminds me of like an Elon Musk. What? He has like 13, 14 children. And has all the money in the world but doesn't really see about them. So that's what, that's Stan Hutchinson. He almost got away with it. But at the 11th hour, because he was like, you tell him to show up in court or I'll just go and file the papers. Because whatever he had to do didn't necessarily require Stan, because Hugh had already gotten the DNA results. And so what Stan was hoping to do was for Hugh not to go to the press with it. And that's what he threatened to do. So he won that case. Hugh and his family has started trying to heal their wounds. Hugh and David resumed their friendship. And right there at the end, when everybody was making up and stuff, one day Dana went somewhere and came home, and Hugh had like, I think it was like 1,000 roses. It was roses in every nook and cranny in that house. He said he did that because that's what he wanted to do when the baby was born, like he was going to go and have it done before she came home from the hospital with the baby. But then, you get a little melanation going on, melanin happening, and things just turn different sometimes. But it ended very well, and I think that there was some very frank and brutally honest conversations between Hugh and Dana, Hugh and his father, Hugh and David. And so, yes, this is how right here at the end, Dana's grandmother, Ellie Jo, ended up having a stroke. And when she was in the rehab, Dana was going by every day to check on the cat, because Ellie Jo had a cat named Veronica. And she told Dana, don't take her to your place. She doesn't like to be away from home. So one of those days, Dana went over there, and she decided to go up to the attic where her grandmother was, where she had, she slipped one time before she ended up having a stroke. But Dana was there, so she was able to get her to the doctor. All right, so she goes and she finds all of these letters. Her grandmother had married this man named Earl. Earl, I don't know how long he had been dead. Goodness, these names, Eddie, Joe, and Earl. And he was not Elizabeth's father, but he raised her as his daughter. And Ellie Jo had put him on a pedestal. And she found out, I don't know if she found out shortly before Earl died, or shortly after he died. But she found out that Ellie Joe was not his first wife. And she used to have this one friend, and she said that they fell out. The friend said that she and Ellie Joe fell out because Ellie Joe always put Earl on a pedestal, but he was no better than any bigot she knew. And so they didn't ever speak anymore. So Dana found all of this. So when she was in the hospital from the stroke, Dana went and told her, Joe, I was over at your house the other day, and I'm just going to tell you, I went up in the attic, and I found all of these papers. She said, why did you tell me that Earl had been married before? Because that still doesn't change how he treated me and how I feel about him. He was good to me. He was great to both of us. That was nothing for you to be ashamed of. But it was, maybe, I guess back in the day, 1,000 years ago, maybe it was a stain for you to marry somebody that was once married before. I don't know, that was just crazy, but Dana told her that she found the letters, and, he was still good. She didn't think any less of him because he had been married before he married Ellie Joe. So, what trips me out about books? This story from start to finish all happened within the course of 1 month. But when you're reading it, it seems like it was years. But most all books do that. But yes, this completes this video. I hope I didn't offend anybody. That was not my intention. And I think it would be a good book. Like, if anybody has book clubs, read that. I recommend you read any of these books I do videos for. And just to get different perspectives of things. Because what I liked most about it was no matter how much it hurt them, they stayed there. I guess, maybe it was a subconscious thing, but they knew they still wanted to be together. They just had to figure out where the blackness came from. And I'm just glad that they found out. The twist in the book for me was that it was Eden's father. So Hugh's grandfather was black. And what else? I left this out too. I'm all over the place, I know. But Ellie Joe's best friend was Eden's father's sister. And she would come to the shop on a regular basis. She was described as tall, like a little caramel brown lady who looked to be, pretty decent. She was stylish. She had retired, and she moved to their little community and bought her house. She said that her brother's name was Thomas. That's Eden's father. So, but Thomas was like almost 20 years older than Sandra. And she said she can remember people telling him he better watch himself. Don't get killed, don't get hurt. You better leave that white lady alone. But for whatever it was worth, they stayed there. But when that ended between Thomas and Dorothy, they both went on and married other people. Dorothy married Eden. Oh, she was already married to Eden. She just had the affair on Eden's dad. Okay. And then Thomas married another lady. I think he went on and had 3 or 4 other children. But if We didn't hear anything about whether Eden bothered to try to find out if any of them were still living. I know Thomas' sister Sandra said that a lot of them weren't. They just didn't live in that particular area. It says Dorothy didn't really know Sandra. I'm guessing she just never would have thought to ask Sandra if he would not have had any other children. So, okay, I don't know what it is about sitting down here. Now, I always sound like I have a cold. Oh, goodness, but all right, this concludes this video, Book Connectors. Hey, subscribers, thank you so much for being subscribed. Visitors, the door's still open. And please, everybody, don't forget to like, share, comment respectfully, and by all means, make sure your notification bells are not only turned on, but be sure they're set to all, so you'll know every time I upload a video. And in the meantime, book lovers or book connectors, remember this: as long as there are books around, there's always something to read. Book connectors, be safe out there, and God bless.